is here to help guide you to a life that's full of purpose and happiness. Today we're going to talk about inner dialogue, and to help me do so, I'm going to use these stalagmites. Have you ever been in your room alone talking to yourself and your friend walks in and catches you?
You talking to me?
I got awkward.
But why is this awkward? Everyone talks to themselves. As a comedian and a motivational speaker, I spend a lot of time on the road, and it is not uncommon for me to be on a road trip and to talk to myself, or pick my boogers. But when someone is riding with me, I just move the conversation into my head. I still pick my boogers though. Anyhow, scientists call this the inner dialogue, or sometimes referred to as our inner voice. The Soviet psychologist Lev Vygotsky believed that our inner voice occurs because we internalize external speech. So let's say, for example, someone is talking to you. Well, your brain will internalize that sound and recreate it. Scientists have found through neurological experiments that we use the same part of our brain when we're talking out loud as when we're exercising inner dialogue. It's called Broca's area. What is Broca's area? Well, you might have guessed it. It's named after the scientists that discovered the link between speech and that part of our brain. Even more impressive, when we use our Broca's area, we simultaneously use the same muscles in our throat that we use to make sound come out, the larynx. What does the larynx mean? Well, here's a coupon so you can Google it. I don't have time to look up all the information for you. Anyhow, why do we talk to ourselves? Well, scientists believe that it's an evolutionary step as our inner voice helps us sometimes with tasks. For example, chess players who have their inner voice suppressed aren't able to perform as well as those that don't. You may experience this when a person is talking to you while you're in the middle of a project. Let's say, for example, it's your mom who wants to know how was your day.
How was school?
Worst day of my life? What do you think?
To be polite, you try to hold a conversation with her, but you're having a hard time focusing on two things, and now she's made you mess up your Star Wars sandcrawler that you've been working on for weeks. You want to curse her out, but your inner voice can serve as a guide. It'll tell you stuff like, yeah, you're 29 years old and you totally could curse your mom out, but if you do, she'll kick you out of her house and you'll have to get your own place. Your inner voice can also serve as a motivator.
You can do it!
Your inner dialogue can be positive and tell you things like, it's okay, I can fix this. The problem with inner dialogue becomes when it's detrimental to your self-worth, when it's not healthy dialogue.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
So how does this relate to stalagmites and stalactites? Well, let's think about the universe and our connection to it. We all know that our planet is mostly water, but let's go way back before you thought Z Calvaricis would overshadow the mullet that you're wearing to school. Or even further back when this guy made America. Or even further back when this guy, who thought was in India, got credit for discovering America and even got his own holiday. Further back when these guys were making graffiti on walls before it was cool. The most prominent of sea life were animals that found ways to use the lime that's dissolved in the ocean water to construct shell homes for themselves to protect themselves against their enemies. As eons passed and these shellfish died and piled up on the ocean floor, billions and billions and billions piled up on one another, and the pressure from these shells formed a soft rock we know today as limestone. With time, the ocean floor rose and areas started to form into land, and land shifts and wind became mountains and rivers and other cool stuff that we see today. Every single drop of water that falls from the sky contains carbonic acid. It is formed when the rain collects carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The carbonic acid helps dissolve and eat away at the rocks, making its way down to the Earth's core. The water starts to shape its way through limestone, creating crevices and turning crevices into channels and channels into tunnels and tunnels into large rooms full of water. And with the passing of ages, this water eventually forms an outlet, creating a cavern. Caverns are often filled with stalactites and stalagmites. When the water flows through the ground into a cave, it dissolves a mineral called calcite, a major building block of limestone. It carries through the cracks into the ceiling, and the dripping water leaves traces of the calcite, which slowly builds up on the ceiling until the stalactite takes shape, hanging down like an icicle. Water at the end of stalactite leaves more calcite in a pile on the cave on the floor, and pretty soon a cone-like shape forms called a stalagmite. So what does this have to do with inner dialogue? Well, similarly to these small drops that after spans and spans of years create stalagmites and stalactites, our inner dialogue is constantly at work. As humans, we process 125 to 250 words per minute as they are being communicated to us. But when we think, we form thoughts at 1,000 to 3,000 words per minute. What is that dialogue creating? Imagine you had a personal trainer who constantly talked down
What
to
have we
you.
got here? A comedian, private joker. You little scumbag!
This voice is supposed to be talking you up and telling you you can do things, and all it does is it berates you. How long would you tolerate that? How long would it take for you to fire him or her? Ironically, this is exactly how many of us talk to ourselves 24/7. We have this horrible coach that is residing inside of our heads, the critical inner voice. It describes that part of us that has turned against ourselves. It consists of the negative thoughts and beliefs and attitudes that oppose our best interests and diminish our self-worth. It is our own worst enemy. The critical inner voice strongly encourages self-defeating and self-destructive behavior that often become self-fulfilling prophecies with thoughts like, "There's no point in trying, why don't you just give up?" And this inner dialogue also paints an angry and untrustworthy society, making it difficult for us to establish real connection with others. Sometimes this inner voice is deceptively soothing, and it can sound sweet and supportive while encouraging us to act in ways that are self-destructive. For instance, it may say, "Have another glass of wine, you've had a rough day, you deserve it," only to change its tune the second you've had that second glass of wine, to punish you for the very behavior it encouraged. For many of us, our inner critical voice is not only something that is going on, but it's something we're not even conscious of. It runs in the background, destroying everything we're trying to build. So where does this critical inner voice come from? It comes from our parents and other influential caretakers and their opinions, which we internalize to make up our self-image. In some cases, these opinions were not even directed towards us, and yet we still internalized and embodied them. And it's not just the adults. As children, we can be influenced by siblings or peers or even society at large. And as we get older, we carry these thoughts with us. Only now, we think these negative thoughts without necessarily having the help of anyone else. The good news is that we can pay attention to the critical voice and be aware of how it can impair us in our dating life, our jobs, or even intrude in our parenting. With awareness, practice, and time, you can clear these thoughts and replace them with healthier ones. This is a lifetime endeavor, and the results are life-changing. By emancipating yourself of the inner critic, you stop self-sabotaging behaviors and free yourself to pursue a more satisfying and meaningful life. You will feel that peace with yourself and closer with those which you love. You'll even enjoy a more compassionate view of the world and an optimistic outlook on life. So as you can see, even though the sediments can be microscopic, building just 10 centimeters over thousands of years, eventually they build up, just like our inner dialogue. We need to remember the words of Carl Jung, who said, "Inner dialogue equals outer objectivity." Our inner dialogue is either building us up or tearing us down, and the choice is ours. Zenith Nevers here, reminding you to always choose happiness and never give up.
Comment, like, and subscribe.